Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amber and I'm so excited that you guys are here today. Today I thought I would do something a little different but still not completely. I think today I'm just going to read some creepypastas. For those of you who don't know what that is, CreepyPasta is a website that you can go on and people can write their creepy stories, true accounts of hauntings, and just kind of get their writing out there, especially when it comes to the paranormal, the unexplainable, and that type of thing. So I've chosen two that I'm going to read for you today, and I've only just skimmed over them, so it'll kind of be me and you reading them together for the first time. So the first one that I'm going to read was written in 2008. So it's been 10 years since this creepypasta was written. It is voted as one of the most popular on their website, and I'm excited to read it. So this one is called My Fear of Water. I've always had a terrible fear of being submerged completely in water. Not that I can't swim or anything. My dad made me learn. He said I almost drowned when I was really young. I was afraid of it because for as long as I can remember, whenever I'm underwater and look up at the surface, I see a woman reaching down to me with a warm smile, with glowing golden hair and dark blue eyes. Even if it's just in a bathtub, it's always happened. It was just normal for me, but I never got used to it. It was unnerving, but also soothing at the same time. She always made me feel like it was okay. I still avoided it, though, because I was just a kid and it was really freaky. I never told my dad about it as a kid, but I did ask him about my mom. He never wanted to talk about her. Sometimes he even got mad at me for trying too hard to bring it up. It was only recently that I described this apparition to him. He nearly drove into a telephone pole. Obviously, he knew something. I asked him again about my mom. He still wouldn't say much, except that she died when I was very young, and that she loved me very much. He also admitted that her hair and eyes were those colors, just like mine. So I did some research on my own, looking up her name for myself, on my birth certificate, and trying to find any references I could. Any news clips about a boy nearly drowning, anything. I mostly wanted a picture. Something I could match to my guardian angel. Today, buried in our town library, I found it. Winchester. Marie Withy, 28, drowned to death yesterday evening after climbing a razor wire fence and fleeing to a nearby reservoir. A funeral is scheduled by her family for the 25th. Marie was institutionalized just 6 months ago after being found not guilty of attempted murder on grounds of insanity. Her husband, Daniel Withy, had acted quickly enough to rescue their infant child when she was found trying to drown him in a bathtub. That's where the story ends. It's a little odd. I feel like there's not enough closure to this story necessarily. But I do also find that for something that is such a quick read, it was really well done. It definitely kind of brings you in, it gets you really thinking about everything, and then it just kind of throws that loop. And I mean, I think the way that it's written too, it kind of starts alluding to the fact that it's his mother, that he's seeing all of these times when he's having these experiences in water, but it could also be somebody else, and obviously he's not sure himself either if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Obviously by the end of it, it was a bad thing, and it also kind of makes me wonder if, I mean, not that I think the writer maybe looked into it this much, but it makes you kind of wonder if the mom actually had insanity or if she was just suffering from some really hardcore postpartum depression. But I guess we'll never know, as it is just a story. Unless this has happened somewhere out there, I'm sure it has at some point in time. And if it has to anybody, then I am very sorry for your loss. And I hope that you have found peace. So, moving on. The next one that I'm going to read is another kind of short one. But I also, just from skimming over it, it was also top rated for one of the most popular read creepypastas. And I figured I would read this one out as well. So this one was written in 2012, which again is quite a while ago. And it's called Anna. He liked to volunteer in the psych ward of his local hospital. His real job was as a stockbroker, but the stresses got to him sometimes and he needed an outlet. In the past, he turned to booze to relieve the pressure, but that had taken him to places he hoped he'd never revisit. He didn't know why it helped him so much to be in the hospital. He didn't particularly like the crazies they made him work with. In fact, he thought most of them were beyond help. He supposed it was really Anna that helped him come back. Anna was just a little girl, maybe 10 or 12 at the most. She shouldn't really have been in the ward with the adults, but his small town wasn't wealthy enough to have separate housing for minors. He felt sorry for all the kids who had to bunk with these terminal whack jobs. Or he would, if Anna weren't the only one under 35. That just made it sadder, he supposed. He felt a need to protect this little girl from the frightening company she kept, so he had promised himself never to leave as long as she was there. Anna was probably the least screwed up person in that hospital. She had terrible anxiety any time she left the building. They said if she left, she'd probably die from the shock of it. The only thing that seemed to make her feel better was talking. So he talked to her for hours on end about even the most insane topics. He felt a need to know everything about her, a need that transcended what should probably have been suitable for their relationship. Creepy. But Anna seemed so happy when he talked to her that he could never bear to leave her for long. The only subject they avoided was her reasons for being in the ward. He felt that if there was a reason, she would tell him in her own time, and that if he pushed her, he might break the connection they had with each other. Okay, kind of cute, but still creepy. Their bond had been growing stronger every day. They were almost close enough to be brother and sister, so that he no longer pretended to be working with the hospital. He quit his volunteering gig and came in every day just to be with her. He seemed to even be helping with her anxiety, until one day he found her curled up in a ball on her bunk, sobbing quietly to herself. When he asked her what was wrong, she finally told him why she was in the hospital. She and her mother had been in a car accident with a drunk driver. Her mother had died as a result, and she had to be hospitalized. She hadn't talked for months after that. In fact, she had only started talking around the time he had started at the hospital. Touched by the idea that he might have had some part in Anna's healing, he felt brave enough to ask her if they had caught the killer. She told him that they hadn't, that was why she couldn't leave. She was so scared he'd come after her. He tried to comfort her, tell her that a drunk driver wouldn't even remember her, but nothing helped. Finally, in desperation, he promised to kill the driver if he ever managed to get close to her. That got Anna's attention, and though she was shocked at the statement's brutality, it at least got her to stop crying. The rest of the day went normally, but he decided that he would talk to Anna's doctor before he left. He hadn't talked to the doctor before, but everyone at the ward knew him, so he felt no qualms about introducing himself. When he asked about Anna, the doctor seemed extremely keen to hear what she'd said. Apparently, no one knew why she was in the ward in the first place. They just found her wandering bloody by the side of the road. Odd. Surprised, he told the doctor Anna's story. At the end, the doctor leaned back in his chair and sighed. "Richard, what you're telling me is very serious. There isn't anyone named Anna in this ward. You had a nervous breakdown recently, and we've been coming to the hospital to help for psychiatric sessions. However, you've been getting worse, not better. For the last month, you haven't left the ward. Tell me, Richard, do you remember the last time you were at work? It was a stupid question. Of course No. He'd taken some time off to spend with Anna. How had he forgotten that? But the doctor shook his head. You were forced to take psychiatric leave. We believe you had some sort of traumatic event, one that triggered your breakdown and subsequent hallucinations. From what you just told me, I'm inclined to believe you were responsible for an accident while drunk driving. He sat there, frozen in shock. This was impossible. He'd quit drinking. Right about when he started at the ward. No, he couldn't have. But it was rushing back. The erratic light from the headlights as he swerved, the screech of rubber as he saw them, the one frozen second where he saw a 10-year-old girl screaming from the back seat. When he looked back, the doctor wasn't there. Anna was sitting in the doctor's place, saying nothing, just staring at him. He stared back for a second and then had to look down. He felt so guilty. So guilty. And he had made a promise. Richard picked up the scissors. And that's where it ends. Honestly, if I had to choose between the two that I just read, I would pick that one. I think it was really well written. I think that whoever took the time to write this was so well planned, and they did a really, really good job of figuring out what they wanted to do and the story they wanted to tell. It honestly reminded me a little bit of Inception. Kind of the reality within a reality if you're not really aware of it. But then it also had like hardcore Shutter Island vibes. So, he's the patient in the ward and he's the one looking for this person, but he doesn't realize that he is. And not necessarily like this one where they weren't just letting him play out the fantasy of what he was trying to do, like the movie, but he was obviously so not aware of what was going on until he actually confronted all of those demons, basically. That was really cool and really intense. I honestly love CreepyPasta. I love listening to CreepyPasta videos here on YouTube, and I can't wait to read more of these. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, turn on the notifications because I will be uploading a new video every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So until next time, I'll see you guys later.